for everyone who said that Trump can't win. Trump mocks Christie's weight. Don't call him a fat pig. The former president made fun of the former New Jersey governor and 2024 Republican nomination rival in a speech in New Hampshire. It's really funny because he said, Christie, he's eating right now. He can't be bothered.
When he said that, there was like 30 people in the media that were just like, yes, he's back.
That's when a man in the crowd shouted out to prod Trump, "Sir, please do not call him a fat pig. I'm trying to be nice. Don't call him a fat pig. You can't do that." That is the masterful anti-insult insult of Trump. When he goes on stage and he says, you know, you've got Christie. Some people call him a fat pig. We don't do that. It's mean. That's his game. And it's brilliant because he's insulting him. What do you mean? I said, don't call him a fat pig. Trump's back. I saw that. And as soon as I saw the story, don't call him a fat pig, I busted out laughing. And I'm like, this is what Trump excels at. He is an entertainer. He builds confidence by being in control of the stage. And he's got it now. Not to mention Chris Christie is very pro-war. So I don't know who's going to vote for that guy anyway. But I do think this is a sign, as silly and stupid as it may be, that Donald Trump has the energy to win again. I'd prefer a lot of other people, to be completely honest. Only thing I'm really saying is I hope Trump fires everybody.
Yeah, I don't.
Trump is good at firing people. I'll give him that. It's just he's never been good at hiring them. So
that's true, and he wasn't his first time around. But I'm really hoping that this time around he's just seeing red the whole time.
If it's Trump, great, that's fine. But for me, it's like, look, I want a president that's going to significantly cut the government.
Yeah, he's not your best bet.
No, but him?
He probably is.
I mean, compared to who else? Again, Vivek, maybe.
I'm just saying because just given, like, I expect him to piss a lot of people off, but I expect him to sign tons of spending bills. And I mean, just looking at how I know I'm a libertarian, but even if you're a conservative, judging how Trump governed, like gun control, spending, expansion of government, like he was just awful.
He's the only one that looks at the security establishment or the intelligence establishment or whatever as the enemy.
I agree with you there.
So, do you know? I think that he would make significant cuts in the FBI. I think he would make some.
I think he'd make changes, like a personnel change. I don't see him like actually taking a hatchet to it. But
do you know the extent of what he did with the drone program? I know he made it secretive and gave control to the generals, his subordinates.
Yeah. I mean, they stopped recording how many drone strikes were happening under his presidency. So they don't actually know what the number is. It was very high, though. People rightly point out how many bombs Obama dropped because it was abysmal. But Trump, I think he didn't drop more than Obama, but he dropped more in his first 4 years than Obama did in either 4-year period. So it was, he dropped a lot of bombs.
And then there was a bunch off the record. We just don't know how many were dropped or where they were dropped or anything like that.
Do you think that... What's your view of how we handle, say, like Afghanistan or Syria? Just complete, instant removal of all assets and personnel?
So I think, it's a mess no matter how you leave. The problem with Afghanistan, I think I talked about this last time I was on here, was the order of operations. Like Phil said, that you get the people out first and then the military out last. But also, Donald Trump had made deals with the Taliban about like, hey, we're out of here in May. And then Joe Biden came in and was dragging his feet and was like, nope, I'm going to make my own Taliban deal and we're going to leave in September. And then the Taliban was like, well, what the heck? Why are you still here? So, there are ways we could actually start pulling troops out. But Trump was actually stifled by a lot of his generals. He wanted people out of Afghanistan. He wanted to start withdrawing and they screwed him up. That was one of the best things about his presidency was the deal with the Taliban and trying to pull him out.
So the issue with the drone strikes is if you immediately remove all the troops, you get what Joe Biden did. Granted, I think Joe Biden sabotaged Afghanistan intentionally. The abandoning of Bagram Air Force Base was a psychotic move. What I see with Trump, and this is not to defend drone strikes, the U.S. should never have been engaged in these wars. I think Trump's strategy was increase drone strikes and pull our troops out. Then once our troops are out, decrease drone strikes, we're gone.
Well, Trump increased troops in Afghanistan in the beginning of his presidency. He did start trying to pull them out eventually. But at the beginning of his presidency on war, he was awful.
Yeah, he fired 59 Tomahawks into Syria.
Yeah, he was just ramping everything up.
John Bolton.
And then toward the end, he was kind of like, all right. Maybe I actually should pull some troops out. But
so I think one of the only ways you effectively withdraw from Afghanistan in the way that would be to you basically use drone strikes as a placeholder as you remove personnel, and then you rescind the drone strikes. You need a wall to stop what happened. And I think Joe Biden, as awful as what he did, gave us a window into how not to respond in terms of the mistakes.
He did use a drone strike though after what was it? After that ISIS-K bombing.
Right.
He did use a drone strike and killed like 11 civilians with it or something.
Right. And my point is this. If you are trying to actively withdraw all your troops from, say, Afghanistan, you can't just recall them all instantly. Mm-hmm. There's got to be a tapered pullback of certain areas. You obviously don't abandon Bagram Air Force Base. My point is that I think Trump's strategy, probably not even his, but probably some advisor, was increase the drone strikes to create pressure, get our troops out, decrease drone strikes, release pressure. We're gone.
I think the problem with Afghanistan was extending the leave date by like 6 months.
Well, that's Joe Biden.
That is Joe Biden.
Right.
100%.
And then Joe Biden says, we're going to pull our troops out abruptly in the middle of the night without informing any of our partners in the region, without informing the Afghan security forces. And then they're left with no logistics. So you got guys flying helicopters being like, where am I going for fuel? Is anyone there? What's happening? Just gone in an instant.
And I think it was all for political optics. It was all because he didn't want Trump's Afghanistan withdrawal plan.
Yep. I mean, what an evil piece of garbage.
Was it 19 people died because of it?
Yeah.
I mean, I think more than that. We're talking about 19 Americans, right?
Yeah,
from the ISIS-K bombing.
Yeah. How many civilians?
Oh, a lot. Yeah.
Bystanders are caught up in this and now living under the Taliban.
So, I mean, it's Joe Biden is plenty fair game, but also George W. Bush is who everyone really should hate. We didn't need to be in Afghanistan for 20 years. We could have had Osama bin Laden in 2001.
It wasn't. I do not believe the U.S. went to Afghanistan for Osama bin Laden.
No, they didn't. They went there for poppy, for heroin and oil.
No,
and lithium.
Lithium. They didn't go there for heroin.
They went there for lithium.
There's actually photos of U.S. soldiers guarding poppy fields because they were harvesting it.
And that may be a component, but I think it was probably
resources,
strategic access, a pincer move on Iran, access to lithium, seizing the region before China or Russia could take it, and nation building. And they used Osama bin Laden as an excuse to launch that invasion, and they used WMD as an excuse to invade Iraq. Why? Anybody know geography? Iraq's over here, Afghanistan's over here, Iran be right in the middle. John Bolton said, I think it was in 2018, by this time next year we'll be celebrating in Tehran. Mm-hmm. That's what their goal was.
I'm glad you brought up George Bush, because we talk a lot about how Biden is the worst president ever in people's lifetimes. A lot of people will say that. It was George Bush.
It was George Bush, yeah.
That guy started the
worst
whole 9/11 war on terror crap, the Patriot Act, all the war that we've seen in the Middle East was started by those people.
All the power that the Democrats are using against conservatives now with the Department of Homeland Security and everything, you can thank George W. Bush.
I think, to be fair, though, we can say that Cheney was the worst president, because I don't think George
I almost said that. Yeah. Dick Cheney, I believe, maybe you can confirm this, Reed, that George Bush had actually given authority of the Air Force to Dick Cheney. Is that what it was? He had... On 9/11, it was Cheney's call whether or not to fly the planes to defend the towers.
Yeah, it was Cheney's call to not shoot down the plane that hit the Pentagon.
And that should have been the president's call.
That should have been the president's
call. Yeah, but
call.
He was reading to children or something, and then was on Air Force One. Yeah, no.
Nepotistic daddy's boy getting into power mess of a presidency, and then they put his dad's buddy in as the VP to let him run the show.
If you don't mind me going on a short side trail here, just because Vivek Ramaswamy put out a great tweet about 9/11, and it was about Flight 77. It was about the hijackers who flew Flight 77 into the Pentagon, Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi, and how they had Saudi royalty directly wiring or indirectly wiring them money. Prince Bandar, who was the Saudi ambassador to the United States, wired money to Maher al-Bayoumi in the United States, and then he gave it to Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi, who later flew the plane into the Pentagon. And this is something that a lot of 9/11 conspiracy theorists completely miss, because it's flashy and sexy and everything to deny a plane hitting the Pentagon or deny a plane going down at Shanksville. But if you just deny these things instead of looking into it, you actually find out that the true anomalies of people doing shady things are mostly involved with Flight 93 and Flight 77. And I'm not the expert on this. I just know people who are. Ryan Dawson, Adam Fitzgerald, they've done extensive research on all this stuff. Go check them out. But Flight 77, Khalid al-Mihdhar, Nawaf al-Hazmi, the 28 pages of the 9/11 report, just go check that out. It's very eye-opening.
I thought that for 20 years they had one story, which was they were just there working together for fun. Like there was no connection, and then all of a sudden in the last 2 years, more documents came out that show the connection to the Saudi prince.
Let me read this from Vivek. So he says, Mike Pence says today that he was deeply offended that I don't trust that the government told us the truth in the 9/11 Commission report. He says, well, I find it offensive that our government repeatedly lies to us. Here's the truth. The FBI quietly declassified documents in 2021 that definitively reveal the government lied to the public about basic facts of Saudi Arabia's involvement in 9/11 until documents were declassified, and they changed their story 20 years later. Omar al-Bayoumi, a 42-year-old graduate student, welcomed, housed, set up bank accounts, and gave rent money to the first two al-Qaeda hijackers after they landed in Los Angeles in January of 2000. Al-Bayoumi claimed to have met the two terrorists entirely by chance. The 9/11 Commission report verified that Bayoumi's altruism was in the name of hospitality, as he claimed. The FBI 20 years later changed its story. In documents declassified last year, the Bureau affirmed that Bayoumi was in fact an agent of the Saudi intelligence service who worked with Saudi religious officials and reported to the kingdom's powerful ambassador in Washington. U.S. government officials continue to lie about other matters of public importance, the origin of COVID, knowledge about UAPs, Hunter Biden's laptop, and how our money is actually being spent in Ukraine. The Nashville Shooters Manifesto, with a complicit media that just accepts the prevailing narrative without question. This fuels rampant public distrust. There is no credible evidence that 9/11 was an inside job, but ironically, when the government systematically lies about Saudi involvement and the media runs interference, that lends plausibility to an otherwise unlikely claim. There's no such thing as a noble lie. With all due respect to the former VP, the reason that people don't trust the government is because the government doesn't trust the people.
Mm-hmm.
Man, mic
Very
drop.
well said.
Wow.
He's great.
I want to vote for this guy.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah, I do hope he wins.
Me too.
I think, to be honest, I don't think he's going to win.
He'd need to be selected somehow, like Obama was. That
Well,
means deep state needs to get involved with him.
I'm surprised he's not polling higher already, considering he's broken into second place a couple times, and in the prediction markets he has. I'm surprised. He's just every time I see him do an event, he's hitting a home run. He's hitting a grand slam.
Well, he echoed or just talked about exactly what we were just talking about. The 20 years after the 9/11 Commission report had lied to the American people about the terrorists' involvement with the Saudi prince. They didn't even bring up the Saudi prince maybe at the time. I don't know. 20 years later, they admit we were lying.
When
The Saudi prince was involved in funding these guys.
When Donald Trump said that Chris Christie was probably eating, he said Vivek is catching up on DeSantis and he's good.
Yeah.
That was like Trump was like, he's good. Vivek knows how to play the game.
It's all respect beteen Trump and Vivek. I like it.
Yeah, remember who was like that in 2016, though? It was Trump and Cruz right up till the end. They were like buddy, like he wouldn't tread on Trump's shoes, and then I bet the gloves come off eventually.
Vivek has handled his reason for running and his criticisms of Trump masterfully. Mm-hmm. He's defended Trump on all of the most important things, praised Trump on all the good things that he's done. And I think his core issue is that he's mostly just a younger, more active and involved individual who thinks that he could do a better job. What's Trump going to say to that? Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.